I feel like you've done a great job at marketing yourself, and you have done a phenomenal job at building relationships with brands. And I know you were part of an agency, and you were going to all these amazing PR events. And I think that's like such a common question. Like, how do you do that? How do you go out and get access to these PR packages or even go to these PR events? Whether you're in the beauty industry or not, I think it's just amazing to be able to tap into those networks. And when I saw you at the Neutrogena event, I knew you were there with some of your like cohorts from your agency, I believe, which is really cool to see because you have that support. So how did you go about like grasping those opportunities?
I think, like I said, like when I started doing my thing, things kind of naturally started gravitating towards me. These companies started naturally like reaching out to me because they started gaining a following and all these things. So that's kind of initially how I started going to these events and getting PR packages. Companies would reach out to me, but there was tons of times where I've like networked my way through places. Like the first PR event and the first like PR, I guess, list that I got on, that was actually via me networking. My first like PR that I got on was YSL. It was absolutely insane, but it was because and it honestly happened so randomly. It was because like when I first started Ready to Glow, this like girl had reached out to me and she was starting her own clothing brand and she asked me to collab. So I was like, okay. I collabed with her. And to be honest, like I think networking is so important. And so I knew this from the beginning. And so when I met with her and I was doing this collab, I, networked with her. I got to know her a little bit better. I kept in touch with her. We became friends. I'm a very personable person. So we got close. We kept talking. And then the next year she messaged me and she was like, oh, my friend is actually doing this event and she needs like makeup artists, blah, blah, blah. And she like recommended me. And she was like, she's not paying, but she'll like gift you product and stuff. And I was like, okay, cool, whatever. I was like, I trust you. You're part of my network. I'll do this for your friend. And so when I went to go meet her friend and I was like doing her makeup, I was like asking her what she does for a living and blah, blah, blah. And turns out she was the account manager for YSL. And I was like, oh. And then I started talking to her about like, I have this Instagram, I have a following, like, how do you get on PR lists? And I just like straight up asked her and she was like, oh, like I know the PR guy, don't worry, like I can get you on the list and all this stuff. And she's the one that kind of got me on the list. And I was like, oh, well, I guess knowing people helps, you know what I mean? And so I started doing that more often. Like the more I went out, the more people I got to know. Sometimes it's like a hit or miss, right? Like some people are helpful, some people are not. And more often than not, I find that people are very helpful. And so as I started making friends and started networking more, I got started inviting to more and more events. And when I went to these events, I made sure I would go out of my way to find the PR people that were in charge of the event, that run, these campaigns and things like that, and introduce myself and be like, hey, this is who I am. I love your products. I've used you in these videos, and just build a relationship with them, because at the end of the day, these guys are sifting through tons and tons and tons of influencers, a lot of which have the same content. So it's like, well, what really is going to set you apart? Well, maybe it's because they're going to remember your face or remember your name or remember that you came up to them and, had a 10-minute conversation when other people don't, right? And then there's other ways that I did it where I've just like crashed the party. Like I knew other influencers. I've made friends in the industry and I knew other people that were going to these events that I wasn't invited to. So I would ask them if they could get a +1. I'd go with them and then hunt down the PR person and get to know them and get them to, learn a little bit more about me and get myself on the PR list that way. So it's a bit of both. It's a bit of people coming to you. It's a bit of you going to them, sliding into people's DMs, shooting your shot. Like, why not? Right. Like I said before, it's like, you're so afraid of rejection, but the worst thing that can happen is someone says no, and then what? You're back in square one, and you're, like you haven't lost anything, so you might as well.
Might as well just go for it. I love that you're such a go-getter. Like you just go out of your way and you build these relationships, you introduce yourself, because I think a lot of times it does come down to discretion. So someone who's in that authoritative position as like a PR campaign manager or whatever, they just need to know who you are and just to meet you sometimes. It's hard for them, especially when they're seeing so many accounts online that they've got to sift through. when someone actually takes the time to actually come and introduce themselves and builds that personal relationship, it means a lot. And they have that discretion to pop you on the list, because like brands have such huge budgets anyway. So I love that you do that. I love that you go and ask friends and ask for, hey, can you +1 me? Or when you go to the event, you go and introduce yourself, because it is daunting. It is daunting in front of all these people, finding them and grabbing their attention. But because you love what you do and you're so passionate, you do this. And I think that's so inspiring and so amazing. I don't want to hold you on for too much longer, but